Let's face it, parenting is the most important job on earth. Every day presents a stack of different challenges, and more often than not, the answer is outside of the box. On this podcast, we will offer proven strategies, interview pioneers in education, give insights into how to be successful parents, and even share our imperfect experiences of being parents ourselves. We're all in on this journey, and we will span the globe to find out what is working and who has the answers. This is the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast. Here are your hosts, Darren McCarthy and Brian Powers.
Hey, Darren, what's going on?
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
I'm good. Today we are talking to Erin Pheil with the MindFix Group.
Yes. The MindFix Group.
Don't we all need to fix our minds? Isn't that the truth?
Yes, sir.
But Erin is look, we met her through, good friends of ours, Joe Fear and Matt Wolf, guys that, we definitely try to emulate from the podcasting side. And she goes on the whole premise of thoughts and emotions that can be holding you back.
Yeah. And I think, sometimes she's very obviously working with a lot of CEOs, business owners, and people kind of, they'll ask us, well, who's on the show and how does it correlate to children? And, the bottom line is parents have to take care of themselves. And if parents have blocks or, what they call in psychology, blind spots, then they're going to create those same blind spots for their children. And so ultimately, that's one of the main reasons we wanted to bring Erin in to discuss, blind spots and being stuck. And she uses that term, get yourself unstuck.
Correct.
And so that's really what we're diving into here with Erin, that we, the parents can consider themselves if they are stuck in any place. And if you're not thinking about moving through an area of your life that is not working out for you right now, when you have all this time to do it, you're never gonna be thinking about it.
No, and that's it. It's like you have to start with you. What do they say? You got to take care of you first before you take care of others, or to allow you to take care of others. It's like you got to start with you first, and then that will open you up. Because I know when I'm got a million and one things bearing down on me, helping the kids and the family is even harder. So it's starting with you, and then you'll be able to kind of serve them.
Her approach is different in the sense that she's not necessarily talk therapy. She's more of let's open you up to the challenges that are facing you, and kind of open you up to change those areas of disruption.
Correct.
Move
those things out of the way.
And some of us aren't really in tune with what's going on. That's the thing about blind spots is, they're blind.
Yeah.
And so we don't recognize that we're not moving forward. We recognize that we're not moving forward. We just don't know why.
Correct.
And she has a really simple kind of strategy where you can, if you're not super self-aware, that she's got some really, easy to follow pragmatic strategies of becoming more aware so that you can address the issues that are holding you back. So let's dive in with Erin Pheil and see what we learned and continue to learn.
Yeah, before we do that, we'd just like to remind everybody, definitely subscribe to the podcast on whatever, outlet you're listening to it on. So you're able to know when we come out with new episodes, and check out our website, soundfoundationsforparenting.net. Give us some feedback. Let us know, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear more of. We're always looking to kind of bring those out of the box ideas to you to help you become better parents and also have better kids.
Awesome. Let's get started.
Okay. Welcome, Erin Pheil. Good to have you here. Give us just a little bit of background on yourself and kind of tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. I am the founder of the MindFix Group, and we help people get unstuck. So we help them identify and then eliminate the biggest mental barriers and roadblocks that are holding them back from being able to achieve what it is they want to achieve and experience what they want to experience in life. We work with people who are dealing with symptoms across the board, wherever they feel stuck and like they're getting in their own way. So sometimes people come to us and they're struggling with things like perfectionism, procrastination, difficulty setting boundaries, harsh inner critic, self-esteem issues, perhaps anger or anxiety, just things where, you know, another book, another course, another coach, it's just not making a difference. And they're sick and tired of feeling like nothing's moving the needle. So they come to us, work with us for 2 or 3 months, and then we send them on their way, and they see unstoppable momentum and confidence.
Fantastic.
Wow. Yeah. No, and it, like we talked about kind of before we hit record, and, you know, parents need to be, you know, kind of best forwarded, you know, face forward to their kids and be in the best state that they can be, so that the children see the best version of them. So that's kind of, I think, what we want to focus on today, is how, you know, some of these parents are like us. I mean, we're doing a million things at once, and you know, trying to be perfect in all of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm seeing more and more clients, you know, so parents that are not just during the pandemic situation, but like just in life in general, where everything is about just keep moving. Just keep moving. As long as I'm moving, as long as I'm making money, everything is going to be all right. And then it's almost like this whole thing caused a reset. Let's pause and let's think about where we are. And this has been some hard conversations and some hard decision making. But it's really, I mean, to me, it's less about the pandemic and more about the pause. Is that what you're seeing as well?
We're seeing things all over the board.
Yeah.
All over the board. But yes, I've seen that as well too.
And do you find, I mean, you guys must have a pretty good intake process with a lot of questions to uncover, because we don't all know what's wrong, right? It's like, what do they call that, the blind spot?
Blind spots. No, most of us don't know what's wrong. We don't know what's holding us back. We don't know what these roadblocks and barriers are that are making us feel so stuck and so broken, and so very much like it doesn't matter what I do, nothing's changing. I can't do it on my own. You know, it's there's a reason there's a saying that you can't read the label because you're inside of the bottle, right? Like we need others. We really do need others to help us see our blind spots and see what we can't see. That just happens to be our specialty. And so when people come to us, they'll share like, I don't know how to get unstuck. I don't know what the old programming and beliefs and things are that are in my way. And we say, you don't have to know that. That's not your job. And that would be really difficult. And even if you took a stab, it's very possible you might not guess right. Your only job is to be clear on what you're no longer happy with in your life and what you're no longer okay with accepting. What is it in your life that you're not going to keep saying, I'm okay to? Like, what is it that's dragging you down that's then impacting your family life, that's impacting your relationship with your spouse, that's impacting your ability to do a good job at work? Like, what are you finally going to say, you know what, I'm not dealing with this anymore, and I'm done with it? If you can be really clear on that, we can help you. We can help you if you know what you want different. We can figure out why it's there. We can get rid of it for you. But you have to be clear on not being okay with accepting something anymore.
So it's not just behaviors, it's also patterns, it's also what we call antecedents, you know, the things that kind of lead before the behavior. It's all of that stuff, it sounds like.
Well, when we think of patterns here at the MindFix Group, we usually think of patterns as falling into kind of two different buckets. Usually patterns they either are some type of behavioral pattern, and behaviors can be things that you're doing that you wish you weren't doing, you know, or they can be behaviors that you're not doing that you wish you were and you know you're supposed to be. So there's kind of like the behavioral patterns and that relate to actions that we are or are not taking. Okay. And then over on this side of the other bucket, the other type of pattern is usually some type of emotional pattern. So that's where people are dealing with thoughts and emotions that aren't serving them. So every time I go to, let's say every time I went to be on a podcast, I'd have a panic attack, right? that would be a really frustrating emotional pattern to try and push through, that wouldn't serve me, that would be holding me back. So usually behavioral or emotional are the two types of general patterns that people find that they're struggling with.
And that sounds like the base of your, the whole thing is about self-awareness. So you have to be able to tap into something's not right, something's not wrong. I mean, something is wrong. Do you teach people how to have a little bit better self-awareness? Because not everybody has that, right?
That might be something that we incorporate down the road as almost like a precursor to our program, how to uncover where you're stuck, how to uncover the patterns that you're not happy with. The people who typically work with us, by the time they get to us, they're ultra clear. They're like, look, I'm dealing with this. I want it gone. Can you get, in 8 weeks, you're telling me you can get rid of this, self-doubt that I've had for 30 years. Let's do it. I'm sick of it. Let's go. So a lot of, pretty much most of the people that come to us are very clear. They're like, hey, you're like a mental surgeon. Get this out, remove it so I can be on my way. But I do think that, so we work with people who have that level of awareness, typically. It is possible, and there has been discussion for the future of us kind of expanding and going beyond doing the actual elimination and clearing and fixing work, and actually helping people gain that initial awareness. Because you're exactly right. Someone doesn't have awareness. It's really hard to help them fix something, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, maybe talk a little bit about your background, because you kind of came to this through your own challenges, correct?
Yeah. I was running a web agency and really not satisfied with how things were going after about a decade and a half, and was burnt out. And it ended up showing up as physical pain. And I ended up having chronic pain, and doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. And I started to see therapists and started to get very depressed and extremely anxious. And it got really, really, really bad, completely suicidal at one point, because I had so much pain. Nobody could help me. I had no hope. I would just spend more money and everybody would send me to the next doctor. And there was one kind of counselor, therapist, spiritual person I was seeing at one point, who brought up the idea that, it's not these circumstances that are impacting you. It really is your mental lens. It really is how you are seeing things and how you are going about interacting with the world. And all of these old beliefs and programming that you've been carrying around with you are really causing you suffering. And that threw me for a loop, so that instead of me just trying to go and find a doctor to fix my pain, or instead of saying I just need a new job and then everything will be okay, she really had me take a step back and examine that, a lot of this old programming that I've had since I was a little kid is keeping me stuck, and it's keeping me in a lot of pain and suffering. The thing was, she didn't really have a great answer for how to get rid of it or how to address it. And so as much as I appreciated this beautiful insight, it was kind of agonizing not knowing what to do with it. I am fully aware that I deep down believe I'm not good enough, but I've read all the books and I've done all the courses and I've been to all the therapists, and I still have that feeling every day. So if that's causing me the grief, how do I address that? And so having this possibility presented to me that this is what you need to work on, as an entrepreneur, is like, I'm going to go out and figure this out on my own. Yeah. And that's what I set out to do. And, studied the work of people like Lion Goodman and Maury Lefko, and worked on beliefs and programming and unconscious patterns, and discovered that you can change the way that your mind thinks about things, even if it's been stuck in patterns for years or decades. And as I started to learn more and more about this and realize I also have a knack for doing this and helping more people, suddenly I had a business and something I was really passionate about. The changes were so significant and dramatic in my life. I just started to help friends, and suddenly I had a line out the door, and I was like, wow, I'm really onto something here. This is incredible.
Can you talk to us a little bit about, when you say programming, what are there 3 or 4 facets? I automatically think like inner dialogue as part of programming, but are there 3 or 4 things that we should be thinking about when you say programming?
When I say programming, it's almost like, so from the time we're born to the age of about 7 or so, we're like these little sponges. We're like bodies running around with sponges instead of heads, you know, and we are absorbing everything. We're absorbing all of the things that our parents are saying and what they're modeling. And when there's things that are repeating over and over, it's just getting sucked in to our minds. And we watch and we listen and we absorb. And around the age of 7 or so, all the things that we've absorbed starts to become and build the foundation for our subconscious mind. Because prior to that, there wasn't much to be conscious of or aware of. And these things that we've seen modeled, and these things that we've heard over and over and over, and these things that we think we've seen, that we've concluded, become our subconscious mind. And we pick up things like, okay, I'm a good girl, I'm a good boy, and dogs are nice, and ice cream is what you eat at birthday parties. We also pick up what I call, you know, programming, like mistakes and failure are bad, or if I make a mistake or fail, I will be rejected, or what I have to say doesn't matter, or if I mess up, there will be severe consequences. And these things that show up in our lives over and over and over on repetition start to get locked into our subconscious mind by the age of 7. And it's almost like they go on loop. Like they're like a loop that play over and over and over and over and over again every single day. And for many people, until the day they die. It's like this program that is just always, always, always running in the background. Because our subconscious mind determines roughly 95% of the decisions and the choices and the actions that we make as we go throughout our day. And so these loops or programs, you know, this programming I'm talking about are things that we picked up that's just running as instructions, and these really strong pieces that determine how we take action and how we feel as we go throughout our lives as adults. We spend a lot of our adult lives trying to erase those tapes, not even erase those tapes, but to override those tapes, you know, to say, no, I'm valuable, and no, I'm a good person, and no, I'm good enough, and no, I can make a mistake and fail, and that's part of success. But because they're just locked down so deep in our subconscious, and they're these deep programs, most people are never able to actually erase those programs and replace them. They try to ride over them. That usually doesn't work, as most people know who have tried affirmations or positive, you know, self-talk. It doesn't really get rid of those deep programs underneath the surface.
Right. There was when Brian told me you were going to come on, and there was this exercise that you did on Joe and Matt's show, and you were basically helping people tap into, does this resonate with you? So if I say you're not worthy, like how does that feel? And I was trying to explain that to somebody, but obviously I'd rather hear you explain it so we can take it from there. But you know what I'm talking about? Does this resonate with you versus the camel is in the desert? I think you.
Yeah, right. So one of the interesting things about these programs that we all have running in the background, you know, of our minds, is that they're there, but we don't always know they're there because we want to believe the opposite. And a really perfect example that I like to use is if you had talked to me when I was a teenager and you had said, hey, Erin, do you think you're stupid? Do you believe you're stupid? I would have said, absolutely not. I have straight A's, scholarships. I win all these academic awards. I am so smart. I don't believe I'm stupid at all. But if you had looked at my diary as a teenager, you would see me saying like, what an idiot, what an effing idiot. What a stupid person I am. I can't believe I got a 98 on the test. I'm so dumb. And, Josie got the 100% and I didn't. And you'd see me beating myself up for being stupid. So consciously and intellectually, I would argue against the fact that, you know, that I could possibly be stupid. Underneath the surface, though, there's a tape playing. There's a loop going. A part of me, maybe it's just 2%, but a part of me had the belief that I was stupid. And it would seep out sometimes. And I spent a lot of my, you know, childhood and teenage years trying to prove to myself that it was wrong. So oftentimes we can consciously say one thing, but subconsciously believe the opposite. So what that leaves us with is the question of, then how do you know if you actually have a program? How do you know if you actually believe, some part of you believes something to be true? Because if you instantly go, no, I don't believe that. No, that's not true. I'm a nice person. You know, how do you know that some part of you doesn't believe the opposite? And so what I share is that there's 3 key filters that you can run any statement through at any time to see if some part of you has this programming or has a belief that may be causing you problems. So the first filter is you take a statement and you ask yourself, does it just feel true? Does it feel real? So if I ask myself, or if I say out loud, I am a female, I just start nodding and it feels like the truth. So yes, I believe that. But not all statements are so straightforward and obvious. You know, there could be something like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not important. Now, consciously, you may go, no, of course, that's ridiculous. I'm pretty important and I am good enough. I believe that. But if you run it through the second filter, you may find that it's not straightforward. You may, if you say, okay, you say out loud, I'm not good enough. The second filter is when you say a statement out loud, do you have or experience an emotion or a feeling? So some people might say, oh my God, I say that and it makes me so sad, or it makes me feel anxious, or it makes me feel awful. Well, some part of you probably believes it to be true, is grabbing at it. Otherwise, if you say a statement that you don't believe, like the sky is orange, like there's just no reaction to it. It's just, no part of you grabs at it. There's no emotion. Some people are very disconnected from their emotions though. And so a third filter that you can run a statement through is, do you feel it anywhere in your body? So sometimes if you say a statement out loud and you say, I'm not important, people will go, oof, my stomach just dropped, or my throat just tightened up, or my head, it's tightening in the back of my head. It feels really uncomfortable. Ugh. So some part of you, again, if some part of you is grabbing at a statement, it's usually because some part of you believes it to be true. And so when we do our work and we clear out these old programs and beliefs, we always do a check at the end. We make sure that no part of you is grabbing at it and there's no reaction to a statement, to make sure that it's totally gone. But anybody can use those 3 filters to see if they have a belief or a piece of programming that some part of them believes to be true.
Wow, that's really intense. I had this whole thing where I've been working on confidence for a long time, to the point that I've been now comfortable speaking in public, and all these things.
Yeah.
But
and on the podcast.
Well, and on the podcast, and here's the interesting thing, right? So I started to do the notes after a podcast, and there's a software that we use that will take out the filler words. So it takes out the ums and it takes out the and I realized that after every time I would make somewhat a statement or a question, I'd be like, you know what I mean? Right? And there's these kind of affirmations, and I was and this is recent, and I was thinking, I thought I've been working on this for all these years, and you see something like that, so you need ways to compare. So I mean that's a strategy in education too. That you give them 2 things to compare versus this discovery method where it's just like, this is it. So I thought that was great. Thanks for bringing that back up. Now I understand it even better.
Yeah, and we'll shout out that program, The Script, that came from Matt and Joe. We say Matt and Joe, but Hustle and Flowchart podcast, our friends, and that's how we discovered Erin too. So good guys, check them out. But yeah, it's true. I mean, you have, what do they call those, crutches? Those words at times that often I'm an O guy. I think I just said it there.
Well, and I think that the important thing that you're mentioning as well is that this is directly correlated to parents. And so parents we're living in our worlds. Our world has a tendency to be a pretty small world.
Yeah.
And we kind of forget that our kids are picking up everything. So in the same light that you're saying, how does this make you feel? Well, a parent might project as, super confident, but then the child sees them. I had that same challenge with my mom. She would cry and she wouldn't tell me why. So as a kid, and you're looking at that and you're going, well, I know something's wrong. I know you're saying something, not everything's fine, but I know something. And I think that's the thing that parents forget is that your kids are watching your every move.
You're 100% right. You're walking around with sponges on their head.
Right.
Soaking it all up.
And that is why I think more than anything, like the number one takeaway from this today, I think for parents, is the question that my mentor Shelley taught me. And the question is, like, what is my child going to conclude from this interaction? So if you as a young child are watching your mom cry and then go, nothing's wrong, there's just nothing wrong.
Right.
You're sitting there going, you're crying. Like, what is a young child going to conclude if they see that over and over? Like, it's not okay if you're sad. It's not okay to talk honestly about your feelings. It's wrong to talk about emotions. It's weak or bad to tell your truth or to admit weakness. What is a child going to conclude if that's the kind of interaction that they're having with their parent over and over again? And that's the question that we need to ask. Not, am I doing this right? And am I doing the right thing all the time? It's like, what is a kid going to conclude based on what I've just said and what they're seeing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like you almost have to break, kind of talking. I'm sure a lot of what you uncover comes from mom and dad days and you being young and mom was a perfectionist or dad, whatever, no disrespect to them, but then that came down to me and now that's coming down to my kids. So how do you sever that line? It's really, because I don't portray I'm thinking real life here. My kids will get upset sometimes and they'll go, oh, I'm stupid. And I'm like, have we ever looked at them and said, you're stupid? No, but how is that coming out? Is it coming out in other ways from me or my wife?
Mm-hmm. So kids pick things up from somewhere, right? So it's either with their friends or it's at school, and a lot of how we think about ourselves does come from our interactions with our parents or primary caregivers when we're young. And so it's not always this literal one-to-one equation where where a parent goes, you're stupid, and then the child thinks, I'm stupid. It can be something where, if a kid goes, look at what I did, look what I did. And the parent's on the phone and they go, yeah. And then they go back and, there's this important phone call and they just give this dismissive look that's more about what the conversation that they're having. What is a kid going to conclude about this thing that they're proud of? Kids don't, the parts of the brain that are able to allow a human being to experience empathy and compassion and put yourself in somebody else's shoes, that's not developed as a kid. The kid can't look at that interaction and go, oh, she's on that stressful phone call she's been preparing for 3 weeks and has been stressed about, and that's what's going on. No, it's about them. It's, they're egocentric, and it's that this interaction was about me and my intelligence. I must have done it wrong. So we have to be really careful with our younger kids that even if we're doing our best, even if we never said they're stupid, it could be interactions that make them feel or come to the conclusions that they are stupid, even if that's never crossed our mind or we've said those words out loud.
Well, we've talked a lot about kind of the programming and how everything kind of gets started. How do you start to unwind that? Or is that the secret sauce you're not going to share?
Oh, no. Definitely not. Again, the question is constantly, the solution is asking the question, what is my child going to conclude from this interaction? That is the magic wand. That is the question that should be like tattooed on like all parents like forearms as they go throughout their day, is really being mindful about what a kid is going to conclude from interactions. And being mindful about what kids are taking away and concluding about themselves, because it goes so far beyond what we say out loud. It can be in when we show up and when we don't show up, and in facial expressions and in our interactions with other people, because they are watching us. And that's how we break the cycle. That's how we take, we can be perfectionists, but we don't have to pass it forward. Something that's really important is that when children feel unloved, that's one of the biggest threats to survival. It's like being a baby bird without feathers and being left alone in the nest. So if a parent is really, really upset and they're rejecting and they're like, I'm leaving you and I'm going to the other room, and it can be really scary for kids. It literally is threat to survival if a child is feeling unloved, or like they're going to be not cared for, because children can't take care of themselves. Children don't know you're always going to come back, especially when you get really angry. And so I think the other part of the equation, in addition to being mindful about what children are going to take away from interactions, is doing your best to remind kids that they are loved and will be cared for, even when you disapprove of their actions, and even when you're at your maddest and most frustrated. I'm going to the other room right now and I'm leaving you here, and I still love you, and we will be eating dinner together tonight, but mommy needs her 20 minutes of alone time right now. And I love you. So that's unacceptable. Go to your room. You're not eating food. Like, that's threat to survival. And that's really scary to kids, because they don't know that you're always that you're going to be coming back, and being able to provide that constant sense of, I am going to be loved and I am going to be cared for, even when things go wrong. And when I do things that my parents don't approve of, is something that can create more of a sense of safety for kids, and not have them create beliefs and programs about the world that cause them to be anxious when they get older.
Yeah, we talk a lot about fight or flight, and
yeah.
You can't be a good learner if you're not in a state of calm. And if you're, as a parent, if you're not creating a calm environment, it's that vicious cycle, right? So the kid's not doing well in their homework, you're not giving them time to help them. Their anxiety rises, your anxiety rises, and they don't do well in their homework. And it's just, it's this whole piece. So like you said, you gotta create that calm environment. You gotta meet them where they are, and slow down. That those 3 minutes, the 3 words you said are vital to the whole process. And just to say, and eye contact and all that great stuff, that great stuff. But I think parents think that it's going to take longer, or it's something about this time management thing where it's like, if I take the time, these 2 seconds out of the call, I'm going to lose the call. Meanwhile, it's that instead of taking 2 seconds, you're taking 20 minutes, because now you've got to unravel the whole thing. Yep. It's really, really interesting. So when you work with clients, do you normally do everything at a distance? Is that changing right now? Do you guys have a center or anything like that?
No, nothing in person. Everything is done by Zoom calls.
Everything always has been?
Yeah.
And so when you do that, that rapport is kind of a big piece to this whole thing, right? I mean, you're obviously easy to talk to, and the guard goes down, But I've noticed with myself, even with working with students, there's some students that there's a lot of time goes into that, just to building rapport. Because otherwise, you're just a face on a screen like the other 1,000 people. It's like you're here to change lives. So that's hard to do what you're doing, but you're obviously doing it well.
Thank you.
No, maybe walk us through the process. Like, someone is interested and wants to learn more, and what does that process look like? And after the fact, the commit, how does it go?
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, two questions. So
Yeah.
the first one is, if someone wants to learn more, how would they
Correct.
do that?
Yes.
Okay. And then the second one is, if they did work with us, what does that look like?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So if someone wanted to explore working with us, we invite them to go and spend some time on our website, which is mindfixgroup.com. Go click over to the results page. We have a very, very, very long page of lots and lots and lots and lots of clients who have experienced exactly what they were hoping for in very short periods of time without a lot of work. And you can read case studies, you can read notes that clients have written in about their experience. You can watch videos if you're a video person. At the top of the page, there's a free training on the site, case studies page, and you can just kind of get a sense of what we do and how consistent we are with our work and the really incredible breakthroughs that our clients experience when they work with us. If what we do and what our clients experience is something that appeals to someone, they can just click the big green apply button that's at the top right-hand side of the site, and that allows them to answer a handful of questions. It books them into a calendar with me, and then we have a great conversation and explore if what we would do would be a good fit. We offer a couple different programs. Most of them are around 3 months long. Both of them are around 3 months long. And people work with us for anywhere from usually 1 to 2 hours a week in different capacities, and experience the breakthroughs every week as we go through these private one-on-one sessions.
Mm-hmm. And like we said in the beginning, it's breaking through those beliefs that someone has, and some, from what we said, some don't realize that they're kind of talking in the background.
Absolutely. Most of us don't, because we spend a lot of our lives trying to convince ourselves of the opposite, convince ourselves that we are good enough, and convince ourselves that we are smart, and putting other people down so that we can feel better, and trying to run from these tapes that are looping underneath the surface that just won't go away no matter what we do. They're always there.
Yeah. Make it the example I keep thinking of is, back in the old airport days, they used to have that constant running message, like, the red zone is for loading and unloading only. Give a little airplane.
I just watched Airplane the other night for like the first time. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and I was laughing so hard.
But yeah, it's like that just turns into white noise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, how does what you do different than talk therapy?
So with talk therapy, you can sit for hours and hours and hours and theorize about why you are the way you are, and why you feel the way you feel, and why you have certain thoughts. And you can be like, oh yeah, it was because my mom would beat me every time I would get a C. That's why. Okay, good talk. I'll see you next week, right? And so insight doesn't necessarily equal transformation. If I said, hey, you're having health problems because you're eating the wrong foods. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, cool, thanks, right? Like, that's helpful, but that's just a part of the equation. And talk therapy can be useful for people who aren't able or comfortable being able to express and talk about their problems. Some people don't have a safe place within their household to do that. So it can be therapeutic to go and talk about your problems, and to go and vent, and this person wronged me, and this is happening at work, and to get it all out. Not everybody has a safe place, and that can be therapeutic, can feel good in the short term. And then exploring why you are a certain way can be insightful. But as I just said, insight doesn't equal transformation. So a lot of the modalities of talk therapy have Band-Aids. They offer tools and tactics to help you cope with what you are dealing with in your life. So, okay, you are finding that you catastrophize. You're going to keep a journal, and every day you're going to track every time you catastrophize and make a mountain out of a molehill. We're going to track this. You're going to track this for weeks. And then you're going to try and catch yourself every time you catastrophize, and you're going to try and come up with a different thought and replace the thought. And it's just all this work to try and deal with the crap that you're dealing with, that you're struggling with, right? And it's additive and it's insight. And I'm not saying that's all therapies, it's just a lot of them. And a lot of what I, went to over the course of my life. And it wasn't particularly helpful. What we do is not just wildly different, it's the opposite. So while most of these therapies are additive and they're trying to give you tools and things to help you deal with these issues, we take the totally opposite approach and go, you probably have enough. You probably have books on your shelf that give you ways to meditate and that, proper way to talk to your wife and how you should probably, raise your kids and all this stuff and tools and things you can do. What we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to subtract. You are the way you are, and for specific reasons, and there are mental barriers and roadblocks and noise up in your head and all of this stuff that's making it hard for you to do what you know you could do and for you to move forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and be like mental surgeons. We're going to find the stuff that's causing the noise and the frustration. We're going to find the stuff and the reasons why you are the way you are. We're going to get that instant insight. But the moment we find that insight and why you are the way you are, we're not going to dwell on it. We don't even need to know the details. Stop talking about it. That only makes you feel good for a minute. We're going to take that discovery, the reason, the root of why you are, that programming, and then we're going to delete it. We're going to clear it out so that it's not there. And as we clear out the root of all of these problems and patterns, and we start, throwing them out and shedding these layers, suddenly, instead of needing things to deal with your problems, you don't have the problems to cope with anymore. So suddenly, instead of you going, I really need a time management person to help me with my procrastination, if we get rid of the procrastination, you don't need all the tools. You'll find something that works for you and you won't be procrastinating. And yes, if you get some tools, you can become more efficient. You can really 10x who you are. But instead of trying to cope with all of these frustrations, instead of trying to out-talk that negative voice in your head, what if we could just make it so there was nothing left to cope with? What if we just got rid of the voice so you didn't have to argue with it? It's a lot easier that way. And that's what we do, is the subtraction and the removal of the challenges instead of giving you more stuff to try and deal with it every week.
I'm over here breathing easier just hearing you talk about removing things and taking things away.
Less, right? We all have so much to deal with.
So much, and we think the answer is more.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, if I just had this little widget or this little thing, this will help me with my time management. And in the end, it's like you're just a stressed person just moving on to more stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels really good.
Pile on top of pile.
I gotta go to your website. Meet your 2 new clients.
I was gonna say group discount.
Yay!
That sounds good. Yes.
Well, very cool. Well, remind us of the website again. We'll definitely put it in the show notes. But
sure. So our website, you can find us at mindfixgroup.com.
Excellent. Good stuff.
Erin, well, thank you very much for the time. I'm glad I heard you on Joe and Matt's podcast, and we were able to get you over to ours. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
And we'll definitely be in touch.
Good
Awesome.
stuff.
Thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast with your hosts, Darren and Brian. Find them on social media at Sound Foundations for Parenting. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And we'll catch you next time on the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast.